My name is Brooke Lawson. I am 35 years old. 5 years ago, my boss, Victor Harlan, hired me at the distribution company and pushed me toward the company fertility benefits program when my husband and I struggled acting like a supportive mentor. It seemed caring at the time. Now, 5 months pregnant, in the middle of a critical client presentation in our Memphis office, the HR director pulled me aside with trembling hands and a folder of proof showing my boss had bribed the clinic to falsify my medical records as part of his scheme to frame me for misconduct and steal my biggest accounts to cover his massive embezzlement. My career, my reputation, and my future with this baby were on the line. I straightened my shoulders and knew right then I would fight back no matter the cost. If you have ever been stabbed in the back by a boss you trusted with your career and your family plans, hit that like button and tell me in the comments what city you are watching from and how it felt when the mask finally slipped. The folder shook slightly in Elena Vargas's hands as she closed the conference room door behind us. I had been mid-slide pitching our biggest logistics contract of the quarter to a room full of executives when she had tapped my shoulder and whispered that we needed to speak right now. My boss had been sitting at the head of the table, smiling that polished, fatherly smile he always wore when clients were watching. Now the smile was gone from my mind entirely. Elena locked the door and spread the documents across the small table like they were evidence in a trial. "Brooke, I am so sorry," she said, her voice low and urgent. "My sister Natalie works at the fertility clinic the company contracts with. She came to me last night in tears. My boss approached her months ago with a proposition. He needed the records altered so it would look like you had misused the benefits program. He paid her $45,000 to switch the approval paperwork and plant false entries about extra procedures that never happened." My stomach twisted hard enough that I pressed a hand to the swell under my blouse. 5 months. We had celebrated the heartbeat just last week, my husband and I thinking this pregnancy was finally the reward for all the late nights I had put in to climb the ladder at River Logistics. My boss had signed off on every leave request himself, telling me in front of the whole team how proud he was of his star marketer balancing it all. Now those words tasted like poison. Elena kept talking, her words coming faster. "He is drowning in gambling debts, $210,000 at least. He has been skimming from client escrow accounts for over a year, small amounts at first, then bigger. Your accounts, Brooke, the ones you brought in. He plans to use the falsified records to accuse you of fraud during the big town hall next month. He wants to claim you faked medical expenses to hide an affair with a client and that the baby is proof of it. The company policy on misconduct would strip you of your promotion, your client list, and your stock options. He walks away clean and takes the credit for catching you." I stared at the pages. Signatures. Timestamps, bank transfers traced back to my boss's personal accounts. There was even a copy of an email where he told Natalie exactly how to make the records look like I had approved phantom charges. My name was on every doctored line. He had used my trust in the company's benefits program against me the same way he had used my trust in him for 5 years. I thought back to the day he hired me. I was fresh out of a smaller firm, eager to prove myself in Memphis's competitive logistics world. My boss had taken me under his wing, introduced me to the right clients, even helped me negotiate my first big raise. When my husband and I started trying for a baby and hit roadblocks, my boss had been the one who suggested the company fertility rider. "We take care of our people here," he had said, clapping me on the shoulder like a proud uncle. I had believed him. My mother, Margaret Lawson, had warned me once over Sunday dinner that his charm felt too practiced, but I had brushed it off. She was just being protective, I told myself. Now her words echoed in my head like a warning I had ignored for too long. Elena slid another page across. "There is more. He tried this before with Amanda Cole 2 years ago. She was a senior account executive on the West Coast route. He framed her for expense fraud when his own skimming got too obvious. She left quietly to avoid the scandal. I tracked her down yesterday. She is willing to give a statement now that she sees the pattern." I felt the blood leave my face. The room tilted for a second. Outside the door, I could hear the muffled voices of the client meeting still going on without me. My boss was probably covering for my sudden exit with that easy laugh of his, buying himself more time. The thought made my jaw clench so tight my teeth ached. I need copies of everything I said, my voice steadier than I felt, and I need to speak with Natalie myself today. Elena nodded once. She is waiting in the parking garage. She is terrified of losing her nursing license, but she kept every receipt. My boss thought he was being clever using burner accounts. He was not. I gathered the papers, folded them neatly, and slipped them into my bag. My hands were steady, even though my heart was hammering against my ribs. 5 months pregnant, and suddenly the man who had signed my maternity leave paperwork was trying to burn my entire career to the ground so he could save his own hide. The betrayal sat heavy in my chest, but underneath it, something sharper was forming. Anger. Cold, focused anger. When I stepped back into the conference room, my boss looked up with that same supportive smile. "Everything okay, Brooke? You look a little pale. The hormones." "Right?" I smiled back the same way I had smiled through every late-night strategy session and every time he had taken credit for my client wins. "Just a quick check-in," I said. "The presentation is still on track." He nodded satisfied and turned back to the clients. I finished the pitch on autopilot, closing the deal with numbers that would have made any other boss beam with pride. Inside, I was already calculating my next moves. I could not confront him here. Not yet. Not until I had ironclad proof and allies who could not be bought. That evening, I drove straight to the parking garage and met Natalie Ellis. She looked as exhausted as Elena had described, dark circles under her eyes, fingers twisting the strap of her purse. She handed me a flash drive without a word. "Everything is on here," she whispered. "The original approvals, the altered ones, the transfer confirmations." He told me it was just paperwork cleanup, but it was to set her up. I thanked her and promised her protection through my lawyer. Then I called my best friend Claire Thompson on the way home. She picked up on the first ring. "Brooke, what is wrong? You sound like you are about to explode." I told her everything in a rush, the words tumbling out between stoplights. She listened without interrupting, then said the words I needed to hear. "Get a private investigator tonight. Do not go home and pretend everything is normal. You have a baby on the way and a reputation that took 5 years to build. My boss does not get to steal both." By the time I pulled into my driveway, my husband had dinner waiting, but I could barely eat. I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the flash drive like it was a live grenade. My mother had been right all along. I had defended my boss to her more than once, telling her she did not understand corporate culture. Now I was the one who had not understood. The next morning, I called in a personal day and drove 2 hours outside Memphis to meet Alexandra Hayes, the private investigator Claire had recommended. She was ex-military, no nonsense, and she listened to the whole story without blinking. "Arrogant men always leave trails," she said when I finished. "Give me 10 days. I will have the gambling records, the full paper trail on the previous victim, Amanda Cole, and proof of any affair he is hiding to explain where the rest of the money went. In the meantime, act normal at the office. Let him think he is still 3 steps ahead." 10 days felt like forever, with a baby kicking inside me and a boss who now watched my every move with new intensity. I went back to work the following Monday and played the part of the grateful, loyal employee. I laughed at his jokes in team meetings. I let him pat my shoulder when he praised the client deal I had closed. Each time his hand lingered a second too long, I felt my skin crawl, but I kept my face neutral. Jordan Pierce, my team lead, noticed something was off during a status check. "You okay, Brooke?" "You have been quiet since the big presentation." I trusted Jordan enough to give him a partial truth. "Just pregnancy stuff. Nothing major." He nodded, but his eyes said he did not quite believe me. Later that afternoon, Marcus Delgado, my closest coworker ally on the logistics marketing team, cornered me by the coffee machine. "Listen, if my boss is writing you too hard about the quarterly numbers, I have your back. I saw how he took credit for your last campaign. It is not right. I almost told him everything right there, but I held back. Not yet. Not until Alexandra had more." The days dragged. Small things started standing out in sharp relief. My boss's office door stayed closed more often. He canceled our standing one-on-one meetings twice, claiming urgent client calls. When I passed his office, I heard him on the phone, voice low and tense, mentioning the town hall next month and making sure the records line up. My blood ran cold every time. At home, my husband tried to reassure me, but I could not shake the feeling that my boss's plan was already in motion. One night, I woke at 2 in the morning to a text from Elena Vargas. Natalie just got another payment request from my boss. He wants one more change to the records before the town hall. We have to move faster. I stared at the ceiling, hand on my belly, feeling the baby shift. This was not just about me anymore. This was about the life I was building for my child. My boss thought he could use my pregnancy, my trust, my hard work as a shield for his crimes. He had no idea who he was dealing with. The following week, Alexandra called with the first batch of results. I have the gambling debts confirmed at $210,000. He owes money to some very patient bookies who do not file paperwork with the IRS. The affair is with a client liaison from one of our biggest vendors. Hotel receipts, text the works. And Amanda Cole is ready to talk on record. She says he used the exact same playbook on her 2 years ago. I met Alexandra at a quiet diner on the edge of town. She slid a thick envelope across the table. Inside were photographs, bank statements, everything. My hands shook as I read the email chain where my boss had bragged to his bookie that the pregnant one will take the fall and I will look like the hero who caught her. That night, I sat down with my mother for the first time in 18 months without the usual tension. She had never liked my boss had called him slick the day I got the job. This time, she did not say I told you so. She simply asked what I needed. By morning, she had connected me with Vanessa Torres, the sharpest employment lawyer in Tennessee. Vanessa reviewed the files over a secure video call. This is textbook fraud and conspiracy. We have intent, we have the bribes, we have the previous victim. The town hall he is planning is going to be his undoing, not yours. I felt a spark of hope, but Vanessa was honest. Even if we win, the scandal will follow you in this industry. Logistics is a small world. You may have to walk away from river logistics entirely. The thought stung. 5 years of my life, the promotion I had been promised, the client relationships I had built from nothing. All of it tainted by one man's greed. But the alternative was letting him destroy me publicly in front of 200 employees and every major client in Memphis. I chose to fight. The next 10 days were a blur of secret meetings. Marcus Delgado started helping without me even asking, quietly copying internal audit logs when my boss was out of the office. Elena Vargas fed me updates from the HR side. Jordan Pierce began noticing the closed-door sessions and asked me point blank if my boss was targeting me. I told him enough to keep him alert, but not enough to put him in danger. Every night, I lay awake beside my husband, feeling the baby move, and rehearsed what I would say when the moment came. My boss thought he had the perfect trap. He had spent months building the false paper trail, bribing the clinic, planning the public accusation at the quarterly town hall where the entire company would be gathered. He had even suggested I present the fertility benefits update at the meeting to show the team how supportive we are of working moms. The irony burned. 2 days before the town hall, my phone buzzed with a text from Alexandra. Final piece just came in. My boss wired another payment to Natalie this morning. He is locking in the frame job. We move tomorrow. My heart slammed against my ribs. Tomorrow. The town hall was set for 10 a.m. in the main warehouse conference center. 200 people, clients on video link, executives from the parent company flying in. My boss had scheduled it perfectly so the accusation would land like a bomb in front of every witness who mattered. I stood in my kitchen at 6 a.m., coffee untouched, and looked at the folder on the counter. Every document, every receipt, every email. My mother's words from the night before echoed in my head. You do not owe that man your silence, Brooke. You owe your baby a mother who stands up. I picked up the folder, slipped it into my bag, and drove to the office one last time as the woman my boss thought he could break. The warehouse was already filling when I arrived. Balloons for the quarterly celebration coffee stations, the usual corporate cheer. My boss stood near the podium, shaking hands, laughing loudly, playing the role of beloved leader. He caught my eye across the room and gave me the thumbs up, mouthing, "Great job on the numbers." I smiled back. It was the last time he would ever see that smile and believe it was real. Elena Vargas found me near the back row. Natalie is here. She is ready to speak if we need her. The HR team is on standby. Vanessa Torres is in the side office with the police affidavit. I nodded once. My pulse was steady now, the way it gets when you have already decided the bridge is going to burn. The lights dimmed. My boss stepped to the microphone and welcomed everyone. He praised the team, praised the numbers, praised me specifically for balancing motherhood and excellence. The room applauded. I felt every clap like a countdown. Then he announced the fertility benefits update and called me to the stage. I walked up the short steps, folder in hand, heart hammering but voice clear. The microphone felt cool against my palm. My boss stood just off to the side, arms crossed, that proud boss smile still fixed on his face. "Thank you, my boss," I said, looking straight at him, "for everything you have done for me these past 5 years." He nodded, magnanimous. I opened the folder. "Actually, there is something the entire company should know about exactly what you have done." The room went still. My boss's smile froze. I held up the first page, the one with his signature on the bribe transfer. 5 months ago, I trusted the company fertility program my boss personally recommended. Today, I learned he paid $45,000 to falsify my records so he could accuse me of fraud, steal my client portfolio, and cover the $210,000 he has embezzled from the same accounts I manage. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones came out. Someone dropped a coffee cup. My boss took one step forward, hand raised. "Brooke, this is not the time or place. You are clearly emotional because of the pregnancy." I smiled again, colder this time. "Oh, it is exactly the time and place, my boss. Because in 10 minutes, the police will be walking through those doors with a warrant. And every person in this room is about to see the real man behind the Mentor Act." I clicked to the next slide I had prepared on the company laptop. Bank records, emails, Amanda Cole's statement. Natalie Ellis stepped out from the side door and stood beside me, pale but determined. The room erupted. My boss's face drained of color. For the first time in 5 years, the mask was gone, and I was just getting started. The room erupted into a storm of shocked whispers and raised voices. People stood up, phones flashing as they recorded the quarterly celebration balloons swaying like they were mocking the whole scene. My boss lunged forward from the side of the stage, his college smile shattered into something ugly and desperate. He snatched at the microphone, but I held it firm, my other hand resting protectively on my belly. "Brooke, this is completely unprofessional." He snapped, his voice booming through the speakers so every single person heard the venom. "You are 5 months pregnant and clearly hormonal, letting your emotions run wild with some wild conspiracy theory. This is not the time to air your personal grievances in front of our entire team and clients. I have bent over backwards to support you through this pregnancy, giving you every flexibility, and this is how you repay the company." His words landed like calculated punches laced with that familiar sarcasm we usually save for underperformers in closed-door meetings. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, some nodding, because my boss had always been the voice of reason, the boss who remembered birthdays and handed out gift cards. I felt my cheeks burn, but I refused to let the heat show. Instead, I clicked to the next slide on the laptop behind me, the bank transfers glowing large on the projection screen. "These are not grievances, my boss," I said, my voice steady even as my pulse raced. "These are your signatures on $45,000 wired to the fertility clinic to falsify my records. These are the emails where you told them exactly how to make it look like I committed fraud. And these are the client escrow accounts you have been skimming from for the last 18 months. $210,000 gone while you praised me in every meeting for bringing in the business." Gasps rolled through the warehouse like a wave. Kevin Brooks, my longtime project coordinator who had sat through 100 late nights with me, stood up from the front row and called out, "Wait, those are the same accounts I flagged last quarter for discrepancies. My boss, you said it was a software glitch." My boss's head whipped toward Kevin, his eyes narrowing into slits. "Kevin, sit down. You do not have the full picture. Brooke has clearly been under too much stress, and now she is dragging innocent people into her paranoia. I have always said pregnancy changes things, but I never expected this level of betrayal from someone I mentored. He turned back to me, lowering his voice just enough for the microphone to catch the contempt dripping from every syllable. I trusted you with our biggest contracts, Brooke. I even pushed the fertility benefits through corporate so you could have this baby without worrying. And now you stand here trying to ruin my reputation because what you got cold feet about balancing motherhood and a real career pathetic. The jab hit deep, twisting something raw inside me. 5 years of 12-hour days of missing family dinners, of proving I could do it all, and he reduced it to hormones and ingratitude in front of 200 witnesses. My mother had warned me years ago that his charm had edges, but I had defended him. Now those edges were slicing me open publicly. Rachel Simmons, the visiting senior vice president from headquarters, who had flown in for the town hall, rose from her seat near the executives. She had been quiet during my presentation earlier, but now her face was set in stone. My boss, I suggest you step away from the stage. Corporate has been copied on these documents already. This is no longer an internal matter. My boss laughed, short and bitter, the sound echoing through the speakers. Rachel, you cannot be serious. This is exactly what I have been warning the board about employees using company benefits as a shield for personal drama. Brooke is the one who should be explaining herself, not me. But the room was turning. Marcus Delgado pushed through the crowd from the back, holding up his own tablet. I pulled the audit logs this morning like you asked me to keep quiet about my boss. The transfers match exactly. You signed them all. Natalie Ellis stepped fully into the light beside me, her voice shaking but clear. I am the nurse he paid. I have the original unaltered records right here. He told me it was just paperwork cleanup, but it was to set her up. The murmurs grew louder, phones held higher. My boss's face twisted again, that forced calm cracking into something sharper, more dangerous. He leaned toward the microphone one last time, eyes locked on mine with pure, calculated hatred. You think this little show will save you, Brooke? I built this team. I made your career. When this blows over and everyone sees you for the unstable employee you really are, do not come crawling back. The industry talks sweetheart, and I will make sure every logistics firm from here to Atlanta knows exactly who tried to frame their boss while hiding behind a baby bump. The threat hung in the air like smoke, personal and vicious. My stomach tightened, the baby kicking hard as if sensing the tension. I could already feel the irreversible shift the way reputations in this tight-knit Memphis distribution world could burn overnight, no matter who was right. But I kept my grip on the folder and met his stare. Before he could say another word, the side doors burst open. 2 uniformed officers walked in, badges flashing under the warehouse lights, followed by Vanessa Torres carrying the formal affidavit. Elena Vargas had clearly made the call the second I started speaking. Victor Harlan, the lead officer, announced, voice carrying over the chaos, you are under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, and embezzlement. Step away from the stage. My boss's hands clenched at his sides, but he did not move at first. Instead, he shot me one final look low enough that only the microphone picked it up. Enjoy your moment, Brooke, because the second this pregnancy ends and the spotlight fades, you will be the one blacklisted. I guarantee it. The officers cuffed him right there in front of the entire company, his tailored suit rumpling as they led him toward the exit. Clients on the video link were frozen in their boxes, executives whispering furiously. Rachel Simmons stepped up to the podium beside me, taking control with calm authority. The town hall is adjourned for now. Corporate will issue a full statement this afternoon. Brooke, we need you in the conference room immediately. I nodded, legs steady, even though my mind was spinning. Kevin Brooks and Marcus Delgado flanked me as we walked off the stage, their presence a quiet wall against the stairs. Natalie slipped out a side door with Elena, both of them looking relieved but exhausted. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Alexander Hayes' gambling creditors already calling. They saw the live leak someone posted online. This is moving faster than we planned. The conference room felt smaller once the door closed. Vanessa laid out the next steps, her voice efficient. We have enough for immediate suspension and asset freeze on his accounts. The previous victim, Amanda Cole, is on a plane right now to give her deposition. But Brooke, you need to understand the fallout. Logistics is a small circle. Even if we win every charge, the gossip will follow you. Some clients may pull contracts just to avoid association. I sank into a chair, hand on my belly again, feeling the weight of what I had just done. 5 years of building trust, of being the reliable one who closed deals and mentored juniors, now tainted by the very public spectacle I had orchestrated. My boss had forced my hand, but the cost was already crystallizing. Rachel Simmons leaned forward, her expression sympathetic yet practical. Headquarters will offer you a transfer to another division, but it will mean starting over at a lower visibility level. The board wants to contain this. Marcus squeezed my shoulder. Whatever you decide, I have your back. I recorded the whole thing on my phone for your lawyer. Kevin nodded. Same here. You did not deserve any of this. I thanked them, but the words felt hollow. The adrenaline was fading, leaving behind a sharp ache. My career at River Logistics was effectively over, even if the law sided with me. The industry whispers would start tonight, amplified by that live video someone had already uploaded. My boss's final jab about blacklisting me echoed in my head, not as an empty threat, but as a promise he might still keep me behind bars. By the time I left the building that afternoon, escorted by security for my own protection, the parking lot was buzzing with reporters from the local businesses. One shouted a question about the pregnancy and the fall. I kept my head down and drove straight to my mother's house. Instead of home, meeting the one person who had never bought my boss's act. She opened the door before I could knock, pulling me into a hug that smelled like the same lavender soap she had used since I was little. I saw the clips online already, she said quietly. You were brave, but I know what this industry does to women who speak up. We sat at her kitchen table for hours, Vanessa joining us via speakerphone, to outline the criminal timeline. The embezzlement charges would stick the conspiracy even more so with Natalie's testimony. But the civil side, the wrongful termination suit I would have to file, could drag for years. And in the meantime, my promotion, my client list, my hard-won reputation were slipping away like sand. Claire Thompson called midway through, her voice tight with worry. The Memphis business forums are already lighting up. Some people are calling it a witch hunt against my boss. Others are praising you. But either way, your name is everywhere. I rubbed my temples, the baby shifting again, as if reminding me what really mattered. Partial victory tasted bitter already. I had stopped my boss from destroying me quietly, but the public exposure I had chosen to protect myself was now the very thing that might cost me the career I had sacrificed so much to build. That night alone in my guest room at my mother's, I stared at the ultrasound photo on my nightstand. 5 months of planning a future that included steady paychecks and maternity leave at a company I thought had my back. Now the future looked uncertain, filled with court dates and job searches in a field that never forgot scams. My boss's arrest made the evening news. His mugshot flashed across the screen, the caption calling it a shocking fall from grace at River Logistics. My phone would not stop buzzing with messages from former colleagues, some supportive, some already distancing themselves. One text from an old client simply read, "We need to talk about our contract." I set the phone face down the same way my boss used to when he was hiding things. The irony was not lost on me. The next morning brought the first real blow of the irreversible loss. Rachel Simmons called early. Brooke headquarters has decided to place the entire marketing team under review. Your accounts are being reassigned temporarily. It is not a termination, but with the publicity, they think it is best if you take paid leave until the legal dust settles. 6 months at least. 6 months. The words wounded heavy. Paid leave meant security for the baby's arrival, but it also meant the door to my old life was closing. I would walk away with my name cleared eventually, with my boss facing years in prison, but the professional network I had spent 5 years cultivating was fracturing in real time. I thanked Rachel and hung up, then called Alexander Hayes for an update. The gambling debts are drawing more heat, she said. Some of those creditors reached out to me anonymously. They are not happy the money train stopped. My boss may have named you as a loose end in one of his last calls before the arrest. The threat lingered, another layer of uncertainty wrapping around the victory I had fought so hard for. I sat on the edge of the bed, hand on my belly, and wondered how much more I would have to lose before this was truly over. My mother knocked softly and stepped in. Whatever comes next, we face it together, she said. But you need to decide what you are willing to give up to complete this. I nodded, but inside the question burned. The town hall had exposed my boss, but it had also exposed me to a world that rewarded silence more than truth. Partial victory meant the handcuffs on him and the freedom for me to raise my child without his shadow. Yet the career I loved, the stability I had counted on, were slipping through my fingers one public headline at a time. And the worst part was, I could already feel the next shoe about to drop. The next shoe dropped sooner than I expected, right as I was trying to process the paid leave offer from Rachel Simmons. My phone rang while I was still sitting on the edge of the bed at my mother's house, the number unknown but the area code local. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. Brooke Lawson, I said, keeping my tone even. My boss's voice came through the line rougher than usual, but still dripping with that same calculated sarcasm he had perfected over 5 years of running meetings. They must have given him one call from Holden. Well, if it is not the pregnant hero of the hour, congratulations on your little performance, Brooke. You really know how to make a man look bad in front of the people who pay his salary. I always knew you had ambition, but I never figured you would stab me in the back while hiding behind a baby bump and a folder of doctored evidence. My grip tightened on the phone until my knuckles whitened. My mother paused in the doorway, sensing the shift in my posture, but I waved her off gently. I would not let him hear me crack. You are the one who paid $45,000 to falsify records, my boss, I replied, voice low. You are the one who skimmed $210,000 from the accounts I built. I just stopped you from pinning it on me. He laughed, short and bitter, the sound echoing like he was already rehearsing it for his lawyer. Stop me, sweetheart. You have only started the real mess. Those clients you think love you, they are already calling my attorney asking if the scandal is real. One more viral clip from that town hall and your name becomes poison in every logistics office from Memphis to Nashville. I built this industry reputation for people like you, and now you have torched it for both of us. Enjoy the paid leave, Brooke. Hey, P-Rock. By the time you are cleared, if you ever are the only job left for you, you'll be answering phones at some third-rate startup that does not check backgrounds. The jab landed exactly where he wanted it, twisting the knife in the career I had clawed my way up to protect. I could hear the guards in the background telling him time was up, but he squeezed in one last line voice, dropping to that intimate, venomous tone he used in one-on-ones when he wanted to remind you who held the power. And tell that baby of yours that Daddy Victor says good luck growing up with a mother who trades loyalty for headlines. Some legacies are harder to live down than others. The line went dead. I sat there staring at the screen, the baby ticking sharply as if reacting to the spike in my pulse. My mother stepped fully into the room now, her face tight with concern, but no, I told you so. Was that him? She asked quietly. I nodded once, setting the phone down like it might burn me. He is already spinning it, saying I am the one who ruined everything. And the worst part is parts of it might stick, Rachel Simmons called earlier. The marketing team is under full review. My accounts are frozen for now, and the paid leave is their polite way of saying they want distance until the charges against him are ironclad. Blair Thompson texted right then, her message popping up with a link to a local business blog. Brooke, check this. Someone leaked the full town hall audio. It is everywhere, and the comments are split. Half are calling you brave, half are saying you ambushed a respected boss, while pregnant and emotional. I clicked the link and scrolled the headline screaming, Memphis Logistics exec arrested after public showdown with star employee. My stomach turned. Kevin Brooks had already messaged me separately. Marcus and I are backing you in the internal statements, but two big clients just emailed the team, asking to pause contracts until the dust settles. My boss's name is still on half the paperwork. The irreversible loss was starting to feel real, not just a possibility. 5 years of 16-hour weeks of closing deals that kept the lights on in this distribution world, and now my name was the one attached to scandal instead of success. I had exposed my boss, stopped his scheme cold, but the very public way I had done it meant my professional life in Memphis might never recover the same way. Rachel had been clear on the call transfer options existed, but they came with a demotion in title and a pay cut to avoid any appearance of favoritism. Partial victory, they called it, in the legal emails Vanessa Torres forwarded. I had the truth on my side, the arrest on his, but the stability I had counted on for my baby's first years was cracking under the weight of headlines and whispered doubts. I spent the rest of that afternoon on the phone with Vanessa going over the next steps. She was optimistic about the criminal case. The embezzlement trail is airtight with Natalie Ellis's testimony and the bank records. The conspiracy charge sticks because of the bribe payments. My boss's lawyer is already trying to negotiate a plea. But we have Amanda Cole's full statement now, and she is naming the exact same pattern he used on her 2 years ago. He will not walk away clean. But the civil side, the wrongful termination suit we were preparing, felt heavier. Even if we settle favorably, Vanessa said the industry blacklist is real. Logistics firms talk. You may need to pivot entirely, maybe consulting or a smaller firm outside the distribution network. It is not failure, Brooke. It is survival. Survival. The word tasted like the herbal tea my mother kept pressing into my hands. I met Marcus Delgado later that evening at a neutral coffee shop on the outskirts of town, away from any river logistics eyes. He slid a printed summary across the table, voice low. I pulled every internal email I could safely copy. My boss was planning the town hall accusation for weeks. He even had a draft script calling you out by name for misuse of benefits. Kevin is ready to testify too if it goes to deposition. But Brooke, 3 more clients called today. One of them cited the viral video directly and said they cannot risk the association right now. I nodded the baby, shifting again under my hand as I read the printouts. Each new piece of evidence against my boss felt like another small win, but the client pullouts were the slow bleed I could not stop. My best friend Claire joined us midway through her face set in determination. I talked to a contact at a marketing agency in Nashville. They heard about the story and are interested in a freelance role once the legal stuff clears. It is not the same salary or title, but it is something steady while you figure out the next chapter. The conversation stretched late, the 3 of us mapping out contingencies. Marcus offered to keep feeding me internal updates from the office. Claire promised to help screen any job leads that came through her network. But underneath the support, the loss settled deeper. I had chosen to fight my boss's authority head on, to refuse the frame job he had built with bribes and lies, and now I was paying for it with the very career ladder I had climbed for my family's future. Partial victory meant my boss would face prison time, the company would clean house, and my name would eventually be cleared in court. Yet the reputation damage, the client exodus, the forced pivot to something smaller, those were the pieces I could not get back. By the time I drove home that night, the exhaustion hit harder than the adrenaline from the town hall. My husband met me at the door, his arms wrapping around me without questions, but I could see the worry in his eyes. Whatever happens, he said we have each other and the baby. That is what matters. I wanted to believe him. I did believe him. But the next morning brought the first real medical reminder that stress was taking its toll. A routine checkup with my doctor turned into an extra ultrasound because my blood pressure had spiked overnight. Nothing dangerous yet, the nurse assured me, but she recommended more rest and less screen time on the news stories. The body knows when something big is happening, she said gently. Give yourself grace. Grace. I almost laughed at the word while lying on the exam table, the baby's heartbeat steady on the monitor. Grace was what my boss had pretended to offer when he pushed the fertility benefits right before he turned them into weapons. Now, grace meant accepting that I had won the battle but lost the battlefield I had spent 5 years defending. Vanessa called while I was still in the parking lot after the appointment. Good news and complicated news, she said. The prosecutor moved fast. My boss's bail hearing is tomorrow, and with the gambling debts and the creditor threats Alexandra uncovered, the judge is likely to deny it. But his lawyer just filed a motion claiming the town hall was a setup and that you orchestrated the leak for personal gain. It is a delay tactic, but it means more headlines, more public scrutiny on you specifically. The motion felt like my boss reaching out from jail with one more sarcastic jab, trying to flip the narrative, even as the evidence stacked against him. I thanked Vanessa and hung up, then sat in my car for a long minute, hand on my belly, breathing through the fresh wave of uncertainty. Kevin Brooks texted, "Right then, office is chaos. Rachel Simmons is holding an all hands to address the scandal. My boss's assistant just resigned and is talking to reporters. This is getting bigger than we thought." The suspense built like a tightening wire. Every new development pulled me further from the stable life I had planned, yet closer to the freedom of knowing my boss could not touch my records or my accounts again. I drove to my mother's, once more needing the quiet space to think. She listened as I laid out the latest, her advice, simple but sharp. "You stopped him from destroying you quietly, Brooke. Now you decide how much of the old life you are willing to let go of to protect the new one." That evening, Claire and Marcus joined us for a strategy dinner, the four of us around the table, with printed timelines and job listings. Marcus shared one last internal update. The parent company was offering severance packages to anyone directly involved in the scandal to avoid lawsuits, but accepting it would mean signing a broad non-disclosure that limited future employment references. Another irreversible choice. Take the money and the silence, or fight for the full story and risk longer blacklisting. I stared at the paperwork Vanessa had emailed over the partial victory staring back at me in legalese. My boss would pay for what he did. The baby would arrive into a world without his schemes hanging over us. But the career I had loved, the one that had given me purpose and security through 5 hard years, was the price tag on that freedom. As I signed the first page of the severance agreement that night, a final text came through from an unknown number. It was short, but the sarcasm bled through every word, clearly from one of my boss's remaining allies still loyal enough to pass it along. "Enjoy the payout, Brooke. Some mothers trade futures for justice. Hope the baby thinks it was worth it when the job offers stop coming." The threat lingered in the dark of my mother's guest room, another reminder that even behind bars, my boss's reach was not quite gone. I set the phone down and closed my eyes, the baby moving softly as if sensing the crossroads I stood at. I had exposed the abuse of power, stopped the frame job, protected my family's future the only way I could. Yet the loss felt permanent now, a quiet reshaping of everything I had planned. And just when I thought the worst of the fallout was behind me, Rachel Simmons left a voicemail at midnight that changed the equation again. "Brooke, we need to talk first thing. One of the biggest clients just pulled their entire contract and named you personally in the cancellation letter. They are citing irreconcilable reputational risk. Call me before the press gets wind of this." My eyes snapped open in the dark. The next escalation was already here, pulling the ground out from under the partial win I thought I had secured. The voicemail from Rachel Simmons played on speaker while I stood frozen in my mother's kitchen, the herbal tea gone cold in my mug. "Brooke, we need to talk first thing. One of the biggest clients just pulled their entire contract and named you personally in the cancellation letter. They are citing irreconcilable reputational risk. Call me before the press gets wind of this." My mother set her own cup down slowly, her face calm, but her eyes sharp with the same protective fire she had shown since the town hall. I hit callback immediately, my free hand resting on the curve of my belly where the baby had gone still, as if listening, too. Rachel answered on the first ring, her voice brisk and professional, but edged with the exhaustion I recognized from every crisis call we had shared in the last 48 hours. "Brooke, I am sorry to hit you with this at midnight," she said. "The client is one of our oldest accounts, the Midwest freight route you personally landed 3 years ago. Their legal team referenced the viral town hall clip and said associating with you now creates too much liability. They are pulling $2,800,000 in annual business and demanding we reassign every file by end of week. Headquarters is scrambling, but they are not blaming you. They are just trying to contain the bleed." I sank into the nearest chair, the wood creaking under me. So the partial win I thought I had is costing the company millions, and my name is the reason. My boss is in custody, the evidence is ironclad, but I am still the one carrying the reputational risk. Rachel did not sugarcoat it. Exactly. The board approved your severance package this afternoon, $180,000 plus full maternity coverage through delivery. It is generous, but it comes with the standard non-disclosure clause. Sign it and the public narrative stays controlled. Refuse and we fight the civil suit, but the client losses will keep mounting and your future references will be neutral at best. My mother sat across from me listening without interrupting her hand reaching over to squeeze mine once. She had driven me through 5 years of defending my boss to her, and now she was the steady anchor while everything I had built crumbled. I thanked Rachel, promised to review the papers with Vanessa Torres first thing in the morning, and hung up. The kitchen felt smaller, the silence heavier. The next 3 days blurred into a series of controlled fires. Vanessa met me at a quiet cafe downtown, her silver reading glasses perched on her nose as she spread the severance agreement across the table. My boss's bail was denied yesterday, she said, sliding the court order toward me. The judge cited the gambling debts and the creditor threats Alexandra Hayes documented. He is staying in until the preliminary hearing. His lawyer is pushing for a plea on the embezzlement to avoid the full conspiracy trial, but Natalie Ellis and Amanda Cole are both locked in as witnesses. The case is solid. You win the legal fight, Brooke. I scanned the pages, the $180,000 staring back in clean black text, enough to cover the baby's arrival and 6 months of breathing room, but the non-disclosure meant I could never speak publicly about the town hall again, never warn other women in the industry about bosses like my boss. My best friend Claire had joined us, her notebook already filled with job leads from her Nashville contacts. A boutique marketing firm there is looking for a senior strategist on a contract basis, she said. It is 60% of your old salary, remote friendly, and they do not care about the Memphis drama as long as the work is good. It is not the corner office you earned, but it is steady. Marcus Delgado texted updates from the office throughout the day. 3 more clients paused contracts today. Kevin and I submitted our statement supporting you, but Rachel Simmons told the team the reassignments are final. Your accounts are gone. The messages landed like small cuts, each one reminding me that the sudden public exposure I had chosen to stop my boss had triggered a rapid collapse I could not fully control. I had achieved the goal, protected my records, my pregnancy, my future from his frame job, but the career I had sacrificed family dinners and weekends for was the irreversible loss I had to carry. By the end of the week, I sat in Vanessa's office with my mother and Claire flanking me, the severance papers signed and the non-disclosure sealed. My boss's preliminary hearing had wrapped that morning. He took the plea on the embezzlement and conspiracy charges to avoid the longer trial. The judge gave him 4 years with the gambling debts triggering additional restitution orders. Alexandra Hayes called right after with the final update. His creditors are circling the remaining assets, but he has nothing left. The affair partner resigned and vanished the same day as the arrest. He is done, Brooke. You made sure of it. I should have felt relief, but it sat bittersweet on my tongue. My boss would serve time. The company had cleaned house. My name would be cleared in the official records. Yet the client who pulled the $2,800,000 had started a quiet exodus. And the logistics world in Memphis now associated Brooke Lawson with the woman who took down her boss in public, pregnant or not. Job offers that once would have come easily now carried careful wording about reputation management. The senior title I had earned through 5 years of authority abuse and quiet endurance was gone, replaced by contract work that let me work from home after the baby arrived. The birth came 6 weeks later. A healthy boy we named Eli, delivered in a calm hospital room with my mother holding my hand and Claire pacing the hallway with coffee. Eli's first cry filled the space where fear had lived for months, and in that moment, the partial victory felt worth every lost account and every whispered doubt. I had chosen myself over loyalty to a boss who saw me as a shield for his crimes. I had refused the frame job, exposed the authority abuse, and protected the family I was building. But the career that had defined me for half a decade was the meaningful thing I lost the stability and the network traded for truth and safety. 3 months after Eli's arrival, I started the Nashville contract from my mother's guest room turned nursery, the laptop balanced on the arm of the rocking chair while he napped against my chest. The pay was lower, the title smaller, but the hours let me be present for every feeding and every milestone. My mother visited daily, our relationship stronger than it had been in years because I had finally listened when she warned me about my boss's practiced charm. Claire and Marcus stayed in touch, sending leads and encouragement, the chosen family that had shown up when the corporate one fractured. I learned something permanent through all of it. Authority figures who abuse their hierarchy do not just steal money or credit. They steal the version of yourself you worked so hard to become. I stopped my boss, but the cost was the future I had mapped out in conference rooms and client dinners. Partial victory meant justice served and my son raised without that shadow. Yet the professional life I loved was the piece I could never get back exactly as it was. Some wins reshape you, quietly leaving you stronger but walking a narrower path. I still check the Memphis business news sometimes. My boss's name surfaces in occasional restitution updates, a reminder that the rapid collapse he triggered for himself is still unfolding. I do not regret the town hall. I regret only that the industry made speaking up the more expensive choice. Thank you for listening to my story. It still stings when I think about the career I lost, but holding Eli makes every hard decision feel right. If you have ever had to choose between exposing a toxic boss and protecting the life you built, tell me in the comments what you gave up and whether the peace was worth it. I read every single one.